You may know the billionaire businessman and investor Mark Cuban from the long-running, sort of iconic TV show Shark Tank, where he invests in people's business ideas. You may know him as an owner of the Dallas Mavericks basketball team, a franchise he's widely credited with turning around. Mark Cuban is a self-made billionaire. He's a larger-than-life American character who kind of epitomizes what we like to think of when we think of achieving the American dream through business acumen. And so in 2015, when fellow very famous businessman Donald Trump rode down his escalator and into a presidential bid, Mr. Cuban initially said he was very excited. He said having a non-politician, a businessman in the race was, quote, probably the best thing to happen to politics in a long, long time. He said he had 10 to 15 conversations with Trump as a candidate during which he tried to give Trump advice or talk about policy. He even said at one point he'd consider being Trump's vice president. Thank goodness he didn't, given how that worked out for the guy who did get the job. But then Mr. Cuban fairly quickly realized that Trump was very much not the best thing to happen to politics. And it's been a very long time since he said anything nice about Trump and his political prospects. But Mark Cuban is a business guy, full stop, and he is no fan of politicians in general. And that is why it is a big deal now that Mark Cuban has so loudly and enthusiastically endorsed Kamala Harris for president. He says it's not just because he thinks Donald Trump would be a disaster in a second term, but because he thinks that Harris would be a really good president. In particular, she would be a really good president for the American economy. Joining us now for the interview is investor, entrepreneur Mark Cuban. He's also the co-founder of the public benefit corporation Cost Plus Drugs. Mr. Cuban, it's really nice to meet you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Rachel. And call me Mark. I don't like the Mr. stuff.
I got you. Well, you can call me Rachel. Let me ask about my overall sort of premise here. I am not a business person. I don't have a brain for business stuff, and I'll be the first to admit it. That said, I have a lot of conversations with people who say they're making business-based decisions about politics. And I feel like that's been driving me more crazy this year than it does in most years. Let me just ask if I said anything that you think I got really the wrong way around.
No, listening to you, got it. You nailed it. I mean, you took it line item by line item and laid it all out. I mean, there's really no good reason to vote for Donald Trump as the business candidate. You know, in doing business, whether you're a small company or a very large company, you want stability. You don't want to wake up one morning as the CEO of John Deere and find out all of a sudden you've got a 200% tariff. You don't want to be carrier error and find out that, you know, he's threatening you if you move employees. Those are the types of decisions that take years to plan and put together. And so stability is the number one rule for a big business. And for a smaller business, you just want the opportunity.
In terms of the targeting that he is talking about for a second term and what we saw in his first term when he picked out individual businesses or sometimes individual business leaders who he wanted to use the government to punish, when he went after Amazon and Jeff Bezos, when he went after saying he wanted to go after Mark Zuckerberg, when he did other things that were targeting businesses because of what were perceived to be his political interests, I would have thought that that would have made him radioactive in the business world, because business people are too smart to think that they can always be on the right side of those calculations, right? That they won't ever be the one who's in the crosshairs once you've got somebody who uses the government that way to reward and punish his enemies and his friends.
Well, you don't hear a whole lot of CEOs other than Elon Musk, particularly of large companies, coming out and supporting him for that very reason. You know, you don't hear them condemning him because they're worried about his retribution or his vengeance. But literally, there's been nobody that I know other than Elon that has come out in support of him.
You recently said in an interview that some business leaders who are supporting Trump, with the caveat of what you just described in terms of, you know, high-level leaders, not too many of them doing it. You said that some business leaders who are supporting Trump are doing it because they think they can manipulate him. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, it's very transactional. For the right amount, you know, you can guide policy. I think you saw that with crypto. You know, there's different types of crypto. And let me just say, I'm a huge fan of crypto and its utility. I support Bitcoin, Ethereum, et cetera. But there's a lot of large-scale Bitcoin owners like the Winklevoss twins, et cetera, who have made significant donations in an effort to manipulate his perception of crypto to their benefit. And so I think that's the perfect example of him being transactional and can be manipulated.
What do you make of his crypto venture. I mean, I saw headlines about it when he first announced it. I saw the rollout was ridiculous. But the more I looked into it, I mean, here's one of my favorite details of the whole thing. This is reported in the New York Times. He met these guys, including the ex-con and the pickup artist guy, through a real estate billionaire guy who he knows. And that guy's crypto savvy was such that he called a meme coin a mimi coin. And that's the level of expertise that he was tapping to set up his company. Come on.
It's all crazy. I mean, the only reason you sell cologne, you sell commemorative coins, you sell sneakers, and you put together this DeFi project is because you need the money. You know, you have to. And that's the insanity of it all. People trying to look at him as a good business person when he literally can't run his own businesses. You don't hear stories about his overwhelming success in any businesses that, you know, outside of real estate. And even those were questioned. I don't see how people really support him as a business person.
Investor and entrepreneur Mark Cuban, I really appreciate you doing this tonight. I know your time's really valuable. Thanks for being here. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, Rachel.